Okay, good morning, y'all. Sorry for looking really crappy. I'm so tired. I didn't sleep well. Um, so forgive me for that, but I'm gonna keep trying to push forward and document my attempt to push through this transformative reminiscence. I have been having a lot of difficulty trying to figure out stories that I live by, because that's one of the things that they ask is to write down, spend 20 minutes every day writing down stories in your life that you live by. And I was kind of feeling weird because I'm like, every story that I have is sad. So I was like, I think I need to couch these questions differently for me so that I could get some different stories out. So I decided, I was listening to this Christian radio station, and it was singing about, why do bad things happen in the world? And the song was like, God, why don't you do something? And in the song, God was like, I did do something. I made you. So then the guy was singing about how we should make a greater attempt to do things against the evils in this world. And that kind of prompted me to think of moments when I became proud of myself or when I felt proud of myself. So I'm going to tell you about one of those moments. So this moment took place in Las Vegas. It actually happened really recently. It happened in December. I was hanging out with some friends. I'll read partially and then explain, but I was hanging out with some friends for their birthday. We had went to one of the clubs on the strip and we closed out the club, so the sun was coming up and I was exhausted because we had been drinking and dancing all night. Of course, I wore heels, so y'all girls know I was extra exhausted. So we stopped at a late night diner because my friends wanted something to eat. I really wasn't hungry because I wanted to go to bed. So we went in the restaurant and I just kind of sat down and put my head on the table while they got something to eat. I was kind of like dozing in and out of sleep because I was beyond tired. And I was like hearing yelling, but I didn't think anything of it. Diners sometimes they just get like, they get rowdy. But the yelling was just persistent, just yelling. And I'm like, what's happening? I put my head up and I see to my left these two homeless white guys yelling at a table full of white guys. So I'm looking and I'm checking the homeless guys out, and they're looking like extra homeless, but they were super mad. They didn't appear to be high, but their intentions were focused on this table of like young white guys. And the table of white guys, they were probably like my size with some muscle, but like 5'3", 5'4". You could tell that this was like one of their first times in Vegas, and they were just sitting at the table, just looking shocked in silence. And these homeless guys were just like, yeah, yeah, F you, yeah, you know, really going in at the table. And everybody in the whole restaurant is watching this happen, you know. Now, I've had my fair dealings with homeless people. I'm generally not aggressive towards them, but in the hospital, we work with them. And typically, they kind of either are high or they just move on. They kind of don't linger. But in this case, they were just standing there because I was like exhausted. My friends had come back. They're sitting at the table. They're starting to eat, and these guys are still yelling at them. And I could feel my like anger rising, mainly because at that point I was tired and I was just like, why can't I eat in peace? Even though I wasn't eating, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, why? But they were young men. So I was like, I'm not gonna get in the middle of two groups of men, like trying to fight. Like they need to handle their own business. So eventually, I think what happened is like the homeless guys got tired. So they walked out of the door and they walked outside, and you could see this table of white guys. They were just like young. White guys don't be fighting. Occasionally, like if they're from like the Midwest or down south, those ones will fight, but like these guys, they're not fighters. And they was just like red in the face, and you could tell they were mad, but the altercation was over. So I was like, yay, finally I can lay my head back down. But before I laid my head back down, I peeped them going outside, and they just stood out in front of the door, and then they just started yelling at every person that came into the restaurant. I was just surprised. I was just so surprised. Every person, male, female, older, middle age, it didn't matter. They were just like screaming at people. One guy you could see walked in, they screamed at him, and he screamed back, and his wife is like saying, "Babe, it's not worth it." And she's dragging him in the restaurant as these guys are antagonizing him. When they were outside, it was like a group of them. It was two that was inside, but when they went outside, they joined their friend. So by the time they were outside, it was like three of them. So I watched that happen in disgust, and I just shook my head. I thought that guy, whose wife was dragging him in the restaurant, I thought he was going to fight them. He was mad. He was an older gentleman. I didn't do anything. And white people, I love y'all, but I was not surprised because generally white people just don't fight like that. But I didn't think he did the wrong thing. I was like, well, it was probably a good thing. And his wife probably would have been totally upset. And as she was inside, she's like, "It's not worth it, baby. It's not worth it." And at this point, I'm mad inside, but like everybody in here, I don't know. I was kind of still drunk, obviously, and tired. And I don't know. I thought it would just dissipate on its own. So a few minutes later, one of the other friends of that little group that was hanging outside came inside, and he sat down to my right. And then after he sat down, I noticed two small little white girls, definitely smaller than me, came past, and they sat down. I don't know if they saw what was going on. They kind of seemed oblivious. I love y'all white girls. I love y'all, but sometimes y'all do be oblivious. So they sat like right next to him, and they were just like in their own like white girl world, talking to each other. Then the homeless guy, started talking to them, and you could see they were having a conversation, but it didn't seem to be aggressive. They were just talking, so nobody thought anything of it. Suddenly, the homeless guy started screaming at the girls, and you could see like they were visibly scared, like the color drained from their face. And they were afraid. And I remember he just kept saying like, "Oh, great. Who do you think I am? What are you trying to say?" And then one of the white girls said, "What do you want from me? Like, we already gave you money." And then he said something flippant. And I think looking back at it, I recognized that pattern because I went through it with my ex-husband. So I recognized that fear, feeling trapped by a man. And I recognized the aggression that he was putting out. So it wasn't going to get any better. And I was already pissed off because I had just watched their friend yell at those other guys, and I knew deep down in my soul that they were yelling at those guys because they knew that those guys wouldn't fight back. There was a whole nother group, like the people that I were hanging around was two of them was Mexican, one of them was really buff, and then my other friend was gay. And I think because they walked right around our table, they didn't say nothing to us. They walked right to those white boys, the smallest white boys in the whole restaurant, and started screaming at them for like 20 minutes, pretended to jump at them like, "Hold me back." So then when they started doing this to the table full of white girls, it's like you found the tiniest, smallest, like weakest white girls in this restaurant to try to like flex on. So I kind of lost it. Now, mind you, I'm trying to be on a spiritual walk. Like, I don't just go around cussing people out. Like, I really hold myself together, and I hold myself to a higher standard because I've lived in the hood, and I know that, in the hood, we have rules. And once you start screaming at somebody and getting somebody's face, that's grounds for somebody to slap you in the face. However, in this case, I've felt like I should not allow this to continue to occur. I started yelling at the guy, and I didn't interject myself into that situation because I'm such a tough girl, because I'm ghetto, because I could be louder than him, which all those things are true to an extent. But that's not why I did it. I did it because I recognized the fear, and I did it because I thought that it was wrong to allow this man in front of my face to continue to yell at these little girls who had nobody there with them. If they have boyfriends, or if their brothers or fathers were there, that guy would not have yelled at them like that. They were a vulnerable set of people, and he was just trying to take advantage of them because they were vulnerable. And I don't know if he thought because I'm black and I'm Black Lives Matter and stuff that I was gonna sit there and let him pick on these white girls just because they're white, just because the color of their skin. If somebody does something wrong to you, then yeah, I got your back. But those girls gave you money and they didn't say nothing to disrespect you. So when you disrespect them and come at them like that, like you want to attack them because of the color of their skin, like, not today. It's not happening because I'm not going to stand for that. So I started yelling at him. And I have a really loud voice. You probably can't tell, but I bellow. Like, I don't like, I cannot explain to you. I have a voice level that I call police officer voice. It's loud. You could hear it through your door if it was closed. Like, God just blessed me with the loud voice. So I put the pressure on him. And I started yelling at him. And I know how to yell. And I know how to go off, especially because I used to fight with my ex-husband. I know how to yell and make people leave me alone. And in this case, I was like, you're going to leave these two little white girls alone. Y'all want to go outside and fight some men? Then go fight some men. But you're not about to fight these white girls today. Not. So I didn't disrespect him because I'm big on that. And I didn't really see a reason to disrespect him. But I basically just said, leave the girls alone. And whenever he tried to talk, I just yelled at him. And I was like, they said they wanted you to leave them alone. Leave them alone. They gave you the money. Leave them alone. It was more aggressive and louder. And I might have said some cuss words too. But the essence behind what I was saying is true. So the whole time my friends were like, Tiff, stop. Tiff, shut up. Tiffany, be quiet. That's what they was really saying to me. And that was making me more angry because I couldn't understand how they didn't want this evil that was happening to stop. That was an assault on those girls. And even if it was just verbal, and I know that's what my friends were saying to me, is that it was just verbal. They were just yelling at them, just mind your own business. Even if it was verbal, I don't understand why I should sit by, call myself a Christian, call myself a good person, and allow these girls to be viciously, verbally assaulted and disrespected in public. I get that they're white girls. I get that they're white privilege, but I just don't think that's grounds to assault someone. If you want to address their white privilege, then you can do that. But you can't just assault and intimidate a person for the color of their skin. That's the very thing that we are trying to resist. So I basically just yelled at him until he left the restaurant. My friends, I turn around, look at my table of friends, and they all, mind you, now I know this is a judgment, so forgive me, but they're from California, and like I said, they were Mexican and white, and one was gay, and he was white, and they didn't back me up, which at the same time, I'm not surprised, and I don't think anybody who knows California people are surprised. They just had their heads down, and they left me hanging, and I don't know if they thought I was doing that because I thought they were going to have my back, because I'm not one of those girls. If I start a fight, I'm going to finish it. I might finish it in the hospital. I might end up in the hospital. But I'm not starting a fight because I want you to finish it. And I think they just didn't expect for me to act in that way because they didn't have my back. But the funny thing was when I looked around the restaurant, because I kind of like got my bearings and realized that I was screaming at somebody in a public place. When I turned around, I saw that there was two black people behind me looking kind of like they had my back. And I was really thankful, although I didn't do it because I thought they were there and I didn't realize until after that they were there. But I knew that they kind of understood where I was coming from. And that was, you're not about to assault these girls today, not here. And I thought about the case of the young lady in New York City who was jogging in Grand Central Park or something like that, and she screamed for help, and that guy killed her. And people in buildings, apartment buildings that were close, they all heard her, and nobody came to help her. And everybody asked the question, how could this happen in America, that somebody could die in a public place and nobody help her? And I thought of that moment, and I realized that I was in a very similar moment, because after going through fights with my kid's father, in that moment, that guy definitely could have assaulted those girls. There wasn't a lot stopping him. Maybe he just wanted to get in their face and scream at them, but I still don't think that was a proper way to treat those young ladies. So anyways, he went outside, and I could tell he started talking to his other two friends. And my friends didn't have my back, which enraged me all the more. I think I was really drunk. I really was. And I think in my mind, I had been in situations like that, where you see something like that crazy happen, like a guy hits a girl or starts screaming at a girl. But usually people from the places where I'm from, usually people stand up and be like, hey, you gotta stop that. I think I was waiting for my friends to jump in. And I think I kind of felt like I betrayed myself by waiting so long to say something, because I was waiting for my friends and I to kind of be on a consensus and say together, hey, this is wrong. Don't do this to people. Don't do this around us. But they didn't. So when I saw my friends just kind of sitting there, like shaking their heads and looking embarrassed and stuff like that, it made me more mad. And I kind of was just like, F them. I need to be true to myself and how I feel. So then I stormed outside to the group of homeless guys, which now looking back probably wasn't the smartest decision. I mean, they definitely could have cut my face. So maybe it wasn't the best decision, but I really don't regret it, because even when I went out there and yelled at them, I yelled at them like a mom, because I'm not, again, really big on disrespecting people. I didn't want to disrespect the soul of those guys. I view every person as a creation of God. And if you hate them and disrespect them, you really hate their creator, and I don't. And I do have some sympathy for their situation, but I just don't think that their situation requires them to pick on people that they don't know, have nothing to do directly with their situation. I just didn't agree with what they were doing. So when I came outside, I kind of wanted to let them know that, like, you just came into a restaurant full of people and started screaming at them. What's wrong with you? What makes you think that you can do that? What makes you think that you can just torture people? Like, why would that ever be right in your mind? And that's basically like what I was saying, And then I gave them a chance to speak, but I have kids, so I was yelling at them very loudly and aggressively, but I was yelling at them like they were my children. And actually, they didn't have anything to say. And I was like, you tell me why. You tell me what gives you the right to start torturing strange people that you don't know. You don't know their stories. You don't know their background. You tell me what gives you the right to come up in here and start torturing people you don't know. And then they kind of looked down, and they really didn't have anything to say. I think they thought that I was going to disrespect them, but that was not going to happen. So they didn't assault me. They could have been high, and they could have assaulted me. So thank God that didn't happen. But then my friends come out of the building, start screaming at me, probably trying to yell some sense into me, because they work in the hospital with me, and they probably saw how dangerous the situation was for me to just go into a group of men and start screaming at them. But from my experiences, generally, when you talk with people who have no power or people that are oppressed, if you can kind of make sense and respect them, generally they won't do anything horrible to you. And I know that isn't the case every time. It's just been my experience. But my friends probably were afraid for me, which kind of makes sense. But the things that they were saying to me was enraging me all the more, to get me to stop yelling at them. They didn't say what maybe they were feeling is like, Tiffany, this is dangerous. Like, you can't just yell at a group full of guys by yourself, you know. But I think they didn't want to say that because they knew I had a table full of friends. They could have had my back so that it didn't have to be dangerous. So their response was just, why couldn't you just have a good time? Why can't you just relax? Tonight was just about going out. Why do you have to go jump in people's business that you don't know? And you're just drunk. You're just doing this because you're drunk. When you're sober up, you're going to feel differently about the situation. And I think that was the last time that I talked to or hung out with them because I don't think they understood that it wasn't something that I was doing because I was drunk. You know, like my gay friend was there and we've been in the hospital and people have said the F word, and then I scream at them. I'm not one of those people that's screaming at them because there's security and because I feel like this is my space. You are my friend. And out of my concern for you and the respect of you, who you are, that's why I scream at them. So then why would you think that I would do anything different in this situation? And, you know, they were just like, you can't just go yelling at people you don't know. Now, these have been my friends for a couple of years now, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, you guys work with me every day. How often do you see me yelling at people? I was like, yeah, I understand that I'm drunk. But even when I'm drunk, I'm like, you guys are the main ones that I get drunk with. How often do you see me yelling at people, like, for real? And they were like, almost never. And I'm like, so if in 5 years you almost never seen me yelling at people, then when I do yell at somebody, you should have my back. Because you know that I don't take advantage of people. You're friends with me because you know that. Because you know that I'm not a malicious person. I'm not a mean person. I respect everybody that I run into. And that I've been over backwards as a nurse to wipe people's butt and to make other people feel better. And when people chump me, I don't say anything. So I don't know. I don't think that I was like perfectly right, but I just think in that case, I actually was proud of myself because when I look back on it, like those girls, before I had left the restaurant, I started yelling at the other guys. The girls were like, thank you. And I would bet any amount of money that even though my friends didn't have my back and nobody else really came out and yelled at those guys with me, I bet you everybody inside that restaurant was thankful that I put a stop to the harassment that was happening to all of the customers of the restaurant. I just wish that I didn't have to do that alone, and I wish that my friends didn't have to, I don't know. So that was my moment when I was actually really proud of myself for standing up for what was right. And looking back, I kind of felt like, you know, if those girls' dads were there, or if those girls' brothers or any male relatives were flies on the wall, they would probably be very thankful. And I think that anybody who could see, I feel like, I don't understand why nobody else said anything, but I feel like it was the right thing to do. And I feel like that the girls thanked me, and anybody else who could see that situation, I think would understand that it was the right thing to do. I think, you know, I don't know, maybe if police officers were there, they would have shot me because I'm black. You know, but I think, you know, once all the chips are out on the table, I don't think I did the wrong thing. I didn't call anybody the B word. I didn't disrespect anybody. I didn't call anybody dirty, homeless. Like, I really didn't, because I don't see them like that. I was angry at them because they were picking on people that weren't bothering them. So that's just my moment in transformative reminiscence. And I guess that plays a role into the things that I think matter. And I think standing up for what is right, regardless of what will happen to you, is something that's really important to me. I think that truth and righteousness should reign, and not just in your church and not just when it's comfortable. I think even when it's uncomfortable and even when it's, when you're alone, you should still have that same integrity that you would have anywhere else. So if I would say I don't like bullies and don't pick on people, it shouldn't change because somebody's white or because nobody has my back, you know? So in that moment, I think that I had true transparency and true consistency with the words that come out of my mouth. You know, if I say that God is love, that I feel like I embodied that because I didn't tear them down, but I did let those men know that to spread this sort of hate, even if you think you have a reason, is not. It's not a reason. You know, you can resist evil, but to spread hate is no way to fight hate. And I'm still Black Lives Matter type of person. And I still believe in our movement. But as I've always said, I don't think that the movement of Black empowerment or Black pride should at all take away from anything that white people have done, anything that they have achieved, or anything that they're trying to do on a personal level. I just don't see that. It's really not even about being equal. It's just about having love for everyone that you come in contact with. And I don't love white people any less. I see them as my brothers and sisters. They have quirks that are different from us, but they're still humans. They still are creatures of God, and they deserve to be treated with respect. And if you have a problem with how they're acting as a whole or individually, then you need to address that problem. And the way you address that problem is not by tearing down, intimidating, or hurting. You just need to address the problem. You have to talk to people like they're your brother. If you see your brother engaging in a wrong, how would you talk to him? And that's how you should talk to everyone. Okay. So if you watched this all the way through, you really deserve a prize. Please share. Please share. Like and leave your comments below. I'd love to hear your discussions of the situation and your judgments and what you think I should have done. Okay, have a good day.